Always into Halloween. That was always my favorite holiday as a little kid. You know, my first G.I. Joe costume when I was like 3 years old. And funny enough, my parents are retired now. They get ready to move in, and they're still in and they're going through the attic cleaning stuff out, and they found some of my old costumes. They found one of my old G.I. Joe costumes. They found a Pac-Man costume, and I totally forgot about those, but then I made a Pac-Man costume a year or two ago, and I've done G.I. Joe stuff now. And so I'm like, wow, I was wearing the same stuff.
Yeah. Do your parents think it's kind of like surreal in a way that you started in costume, but yet you're still...
Like, my mom's like, oh my God, Shawn, I sent you to college, and now you're wearing costumes. That's great, what I paid all that money for. You know, that's what my mom says. But then she takes the photos and shows them to all our friends how proud she is of me. And look, Shawn made it to this magazine, and she always wants to tell me, you're any make sure you know so I can order it, and then she shows it off to everybody, but then she makes fun of me for... So it's just that stereotypical New York mom. You know, I started costuming in 2006, and I was a little bit older, so I kind of went at it like, where do I learn? Where do I start? And so like, if I start, you know, so I'm like, okay, how do I learn something? Like, I look at Hollywood stuff.
Okay.
How do the pros do it? Like, I didn't want to see how's the halfway do it. I'm like, I want to do it right.
Right.
So I looked at professional armor makers, and looked at what Hollywood does, and I'm like, I'm gonna copy that. And so I just used the materials they use and this and that. And so I kind of went into it with a little bit bigger budget. I was 28 when I started.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't go in with that, I'm in high school or in college, starving budget. I already had graduated college, going my career. So I had a few bucks to spend, so yeah. I'm going to do it the way I want to do it.
Yeah.
And so then, I guess, so I kind of like had better materials and work right away. And then, you know, you meet people, and then someone says, hey, Shawn, I really like your work. Do you want to come judge a costume with me? It's down in Miami. I'm like, sure. And at that point, I haven't even competed that much, but it was still really cool to be asked. It wasn't a big con. It was still a smaller con. And then had a blast judging. When I was getting I knew leather, and I was one of the few people that back then, leather's common now, but back then it's very few people doing it. So Carolyn wanted to learn leather. I'm like, hey, I want to learn casting.
That's great.
Yeah, so literally I went to our house, I showed her some cool leather techniques, and then she showed me how to do some casting. I'm like, sweet. And so then I guess that's when she asked me, hey, let's judge make sure. We had a great time partying. Met a lot of people. And then since then I've competed more, so they see me in a contest, so either the next year they'll want me back, or they want me, or someone knows me, hey, come out and judge, help us out. A lot of times now I find that newer contests, someone that's a hard worker wants to do it, but they haven't really competed too much, and so they want someone experienced just to give them advice as they're going. So that's what lately I've been being asked to judge, like, hey, it's a newer contest, this person's in charge, but we want someone that knows what they're doing, to make sure the picks are a little more solid, and that someone who's competed enough can tell how the line should move, what time to put everybody at. And so I usually get asked now for smaller conventions, hey, help us run this, or we need a guy that knows a little bit about props to judge. But it's fun. I end up liking it, and it's good to meet some cosplayers that are brand new, that never competed before, and they have some weird material that I never bothered to look at, and you're like, this is pretty cool, what's this? And they may not be the best costume, but they have one part of it, and you're like, how did you do this? I never heard of this material. And then I go home, I Google it, I'm like, I should have knew about this 10 years ago.
So you're kind of constantly learning because you always see new things out there?
Yeah, I try to always learn. And usually I tend to learn more from the rookies because they go in with a blank slate. They don't get caught into that, how's everybody else doing it? And so those are the type of people that I learn stuff. I may not learn the craft so much, but the material and then it's a craft that comes with age and practice over years.
Experience, just doing it over and over, making the mistakes.
But like the material choices, that just comes from what you had in front of you growing up. So if they could have had an uncle that knew how to do this weird material, and they say, hey, use the material. I'm like, what is this material? And I'm like, wow. And I've learned so much from the rookies, oddly enough. Experienced people, I've learned to clean up my work. You know, like, hey, spend an extra 2 hours sanding that piece, or, you know, little things here and there. But the rookies always tend to surprise me, like, something brand spanking new that, what's this? And then, or even some of the getting out of the costume, the cosplay side of it, going to like the Ren Fair, the horror people. Yeah,
you guys have our horror conventions in the state, I know.
Yes, we have. We have like probably 4 or 5 of them. At least Zombie Con, I know, is one of them down in South Florida. They had the big one in Orlando, Spooky Empire, I believe.
Yeah, I've heard of them.
There's a couple more. Screamfest, I think. We have one down here, and it's just really good. And they bring a whole other makeup side of it.
Definitely.
And so a lot of latex work. And I've been getting to latex the last couple of years, so seeing their work gives me something, okay, I can see that a lot. And the cosplay world, there's some really great seamstresses. There's some gorgeous work, some gorgeous wig work.
Yeah.
Me, like the characters I look good in, you know, they don't. You know, like
you don't wear wigs? No, I'm just kidding.
I've honestly worn 3 wigs in my career costume. Because all my characters either have short, spiky hair.
Yeah.
I'll mess up my hair for that. I don't mind. And then, or like hats and helmets. So I'm like,
yeah.
All the Shonen guys with the big hair. I look so bad. I'm 35. I tried. It just looks stupid. I'm like, okay, I'm not doing it.
Do whatever you feel comfortable doing.
Yeah, and when I feel comfortable, and I look right. You know, I want to look in the mirror and say that looks cool.
Yeah.
You know, I want to feel like a badass. I feel like, you know, I want to look good. You know, it's not. And sometimes I can't always be my favorite characters because, you know, sometimes it's a female or it's, you know, some guy that's really small, like Aang from Avatar.
Yeah.
My favorite character from the series by far. I would look not right as Aang. He's a 14-year-old boy, bald head. Like I would never look. But Iroh from Avatar, the great ass. So, you know, okay, I do Iroh because, you know, that's what I would do. So I try to do the things that I look at as, and I like how I look at it too. And then like my skill set too. Okay, I'm really good at armor. I'm pretty good at props. I like sculpting and casting. Sewing, I'm gonna have more on the easier side of sewing, like simple stuff because I guess my craft, I've gone so much direction of props and armor that I can sew a pair of pants, I can sew a shirt, I can sew a kimono. Anything harder than that,
it gets a little more complicated.
Yeah, so usually I just pick the costumes that work to my skill set.
Okay.
So I can be happy with what I have. So I see a lot more armor out of me.
Okay, well, actually, one thing I want to ask you is because I got into cosplay photography in 2008. How was cosplay photography in like the mid 2000s compared to now?
All we had was Mabaroshi. Like, and thankfully we did have him.
Yeah.
Because when he came into the scene, we literally like I came in when he was there. And I'm like,
when did he start?
He started 2002,
2003, 2003. Yeah.
And I went. This is my first convention at Con 06. Got all these photos, and then, you know, I didn't know there was. Like, I didn't even know there was costume photography. I was just coming here to wear my costume and look cool. And then I come here, and like I got my photo taken like 1,000. I'm like, oh my god, I was overwhelmed. And then I met a few costumers who are going like, oh, it's a whole photo thing. Wow, this is really cool. And then looking through the shots I got tagged in or found, I'm like, I got a picture from the first. Oh my god, this shot's awesome. And then I looked around. He was the only guy that had just beautiful shots. And I'm like, wow. And so I came in front with him, and I got photos with him. And then after a couple of years, a few other guys were able to see his work and talk to him. He gave so much good advice to me. How to shoot, how to use lenses. I don't know any of it. But other photographers learned so much from him. And then we were looking at more. Taya popped up.
Yeah.
The last couple of years, we had Lawrence,
yep.
Alicia.
Yeah.
Ken A.D., he's really
yep.
good. Beth, which is Gapple Photography. And we have a few others pop up. But they had Mab to learn from. And so in Florida, there's so many great photographers that really do great work at a very reasonable price. Another rule of cosplay photography, pay your photographers. If they don't charge you, offer the donation because they put so many hours into their work. Mm-hmm. They're shooting you, they're driving there. They gotta go home, edit. They gotta buy their really nice cameras and lenses. And to get upset that someone charges a few dollars for photos, which is really, if you go to a professional photographer in the phone book,
yeah, $250, $300.
Yeah, $30 for a 30-minute session.
It's cheap.
Yeah, I'm like, thank you, because I know what it is. It's like someone asked me to make a costume for me, but I'm not gonna pay you. No, they're doing their job, and if they ask me for a photo for free, cool. But if I want a set, you know, even if someone doesn't want to take my money, because you took your time out of your day and you spent how much, hundreds or even $1,000 on these cameras. Just take care of your photographers, you know. And the hobby's so photography based that the more we have of them, the better it's going to be. Because I love when you see like a new person come to a photo shoot, you see their first good photo, like how their face just lights up, and that gives the hobby so much to them. So I think that's a big part of it. That the photographers are really as important as the costumers, because we're at a convention, you know, say even we're at a convention 10 times a year. The rest of the year we're online looking at photos. So what's really driving the hobby Is it the cosplayers or the photographers? And it's really both. You know, they both they can't be there without
each other. Yeah. What advice do you have people coming in who? What would you tell new people who come up to you and say, "Hey, I want to cosplay"?
First thing, do it for the reason you want. Some people think, oh, it's about the fandom, oh, it's about attention, it's about, or shouldn't be about something.
Right.
Do it the reason will make you happy. Don't let someone come and say, oh, it's only about being a fan of series. No, if I want to dress up in a costume, should be a costume.
Yeah.
Oh, don't do it for the reason you want. Don't let someone else define what a hobby should be for you.
Right.
You know, some people it's just a pure business. Okay, it's fine.
Yeah.
Some people it's a hobby they're doing for fun. Some people it's a fandom. Whatever you do, you're having fun. Do it. That's the first thing I would say. Do it for your reason. Don't let someone else define what the reason is.
Yeah.
You know, be nice to people. I mean, that rule should kind of not be a cosplay rule. It should be a life rule.
Yeah.
But just be nice to people. If someone says hi to you, say hi back. You don't have to be the best friend. You know, just be nice to people. Have fun. Be what if for crafting things. If I think my first advice, learn one skill at a time. I see a lot of people try to learn like sewing,
Multiple
props,
stuff.
and armor all at once.
Oh.
And they end up having a costume that's 3 parts of it are missed out. And they feel really discouraged by it. And instead, get really good at sewing first, or get really good at one thing first. And then once you get that skill, do the next. So you can have one costume you're really proud of. Like, hey, I sewed this all together. It's just sewing.
Yeah.
But my sewing is really nice. And then once you have that really good, you'll be more comfortable moving to the next skill and learning one thing at a time.
You know, actually, that's a very good point, because I think a lot of people think it's easier, or I don't know, it makes it look online. Everything looks kind of easy until you kind of do it. And I know that probably 99% of cosplayers I talked to, their first outfit wasn't that great. Even if they did, put it together.
Yeah.
It's like a growing process.
Yeah, it's a growing process, and just like go at your pace. Don't try to be the hero and doing some really awesome costume when you're going to waste money and getting there. And I see me. I'm not poor. I have to look at my budget, and I see some kid in college who's eating ramen every day.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you're gonna go this high in a costume, and I don't want to say you're gonna waste money. Go more where you're at, your skill's at, and they try really high, and they end up wasting all that money and not having the costume done, or it lasts for one wear. And